"This squad cannot pass the trial," Sail Dorith said. Then she watched them do it anyway. HFY. Sail Dorith gave the squad their first order at 600, 2 weeks before the composite formation trial, in an empty assessment chamber that smelled of recycled air and old failure. "Fall into coverage position," she said. "Standard 6-point formation. You have 10 seconds." They did not form in 10 seconds. They did not form in 20. The two Velsorn cadets moved left when they should have moved right. The Kroth cadet, a barrel-built second-year named Gore, walked into the center of the room and stopped there as though he had been placed. The Durin twins, Pell and Wren, moved together as one unit, which was technically correct for Durin but structurally wrong for the formation, since they occupied one node instead of two. The Sarathi cadet, Avin, did not move at all. She stood with her arms folded and looked at the far wall. The human moved to the correct position. She stood there. Sail said nothing for 3 seconds, then again. They failed it again, and again, and again. She had requested this assignment. That was the fact she did not tell them. The composite formation trial assessed a 6-cadet squad's ability to execute dynamic multi-position response under live pressure simulation, shifting coverage patterns on command, maintaining communication discipline, adapting when variables changed. It was designed for squads that had trained together for a cycle or more. Sail's squad had trained together for precisely 0 days, which was the assignment's design. She had requested it because she had a theory. She had 2 weeks to find out if she was wrong. The human's name was Wren, Kale. 17 standard years, Earth-registered, first cycle at the academy. She was compact and quiet, short dark hair, a stillness in her posture that Sail had noticed on day 1 because it was different from the stillness of the other cadets. The others were still in the way of people waiting for something to happen. Wren was still in the way of someone who was already watching. There was a distinction. Most people did not catch it. Sail caught it. On the 3rd day, she ran the squad through corridor pressure drills, narrow formation, simulated breach, shift to alternate point on command. Wren moved half a second before the command was given. Not early, not antsy. Sail had reviewed the recording 3 times. The cadet had not reacted to the auditory cue. She had reacted to something else, a shift in Gore's weight, a change in Pell's breathing pattern, the way Avin's shoulder had dropped 2 degrees before the breach signal sounded. She had read the room and moved. Sail noted it. She said nothing. On day 4, she ran the formation drill again and stood Gore in the center position on purpose. The Kroth cadet disliked center. His spatial processing was lateral, not circular, and the center node of any formation required reading in all directions simultaneously, which was not how Kroth cognitive architecture distributed attention. He did not say he disliked it. He simply moved wrong every single time, with the mechanical consistency of a system running against its own tolerances. Wren, from the left anchor position, began adjusting. Not in the way the protocol called for. There was no protocol for covering a malfunctioning center anchor while maintaining your own node. She covered for him. She held her node and reached, by sheer positioning, into the gap he left. "Cadet Wren," Sail said. The human looked at her. "You are out of position." "Yes, instructor." "Your node is the left anchor. The left anchor does not cover center." "No, instructor." "Run it again." The next run, Wren stayed in her node. The formation failed on center again, worse than before. Sail filed nothing that evening. She sat in her office with the footage and a blank notation form and thought about what she was watching. Day 6. She told them, flat and without preamble, "This squad's assessment profile is the lowest I have seen in 4 cycles. Your formation coherence is rated at 31%. The passing threshold is 70. You have 9 days. Avin, the Sarathi cadet who had not moved on day 1 and who had spoken exactly 12 words across 6 days of training, said, You could reassign us. I could, Sale said. I won't. Why not? Because you can pass it. The silence that followed was of the particular variety that occurs when a room of people hears something they collectively believe to be false. Sale recognized it. She let it stand. 31%, she repeated, means 69% is still in the room. We find it, we go again. She ran them 4 more hours that day. At the end of the 4th hour, their coherence rating was 34%. 3 points, but 3 real points earned in 4 hours over a squad that had started the day unable to complete a basic spread. Sale wrote the number down. She had a rule about small numbers. You did not dismiss them until you knew whether they were noise or signal. She thought 34 was signal. Day 8 was the breakthrough, and it came from a direction Sale had not anticipated. She had split the squad into pairs for bilateral node training, a technique used to build mutual positional awareness before scaling to the full 6. The intent was for each pair to log a baseline. What happened instead was that Wren, paired with Gore, did something no paired drill was designed to produce. Gore was struggling with his node transition, the pivot from lateral anchor to rear coverage, which required a full center cross, which was the exact motion his architecture hated. He was making the error he always made, overshooting the cross, landing 4 degrees wide, losing his line. Wren stopped the drill, not by command, she just stopped moving. Gore stopped too, because she had stopped and the formation was suddenly a person short, and the absence was obvious. She said quietly just to him, "Your feet, watch your feet, not the target point. The target point moves. Your feet set the floor. If the floor's right, the line's right." She was speaking his language, not literally, they shared the trade tongue, but in the mechanical logic of it, the spatial logic. Cross processing was kinesthetic before it was visual. Sale knew this. She had not thought to apply it this way. Gore ran the pivot again, 4 degrees wide. "Feet," Wren said. 3 degrees wide. "Feet." 1 degree, then flush. He stood there for a moment at the correct position, with the expression of a person who has been doing something wrong for 8 days and has just understood why. It was a specific expression. Sale had seen it before, in better performing squads, in cadets who were further along. She had not expected to see it here. She said nothing, she let them run. Over the next 4 days, something happened to the squad that Sale could not locate in any protocol she had administered. It was the result of Wren. Not through instruction. The human gave no more speeches and issued no more corrections, at least not in any form that looked like instruction. What she did was simpler and harder to quantify. She worked steadily, and she paid attention to the people around her, and the paying attention was visible. Pell and Wren, the Duran twins, had been functionally fused, moving as one, covering as one, failing as one because the formation required 2 independent nodes and they operated as a coupled system. On day 9, Wren ran the drill near them and deliberately mirrored Wren's footwork exactly for 3 passes, and then on the 4th pass split, diverged by 1 step. Wren tracked the divergence, adjusted, held the new position. By day 10, the twins were running independent nodes. Avon, the Sarathi cadet who folded her arms and looked at walls, turned out to hold a grievance nobody had asked about. She had been placed in this squad as a disciplinary measure, and she believed the assessment was constructed to produce her failure, which she intended to meet with preemptive withdrawal. On day 10, Wren sat next to her during the rest interval. She did not address the grievance. She did not know the grievance. But she asked Avon which node she thought was the squad's actual weakness, in a tone that assumed Avon had an opinion worth hearing. Avon had an opinion worth hearing. She had been watching every drill from the outside with her arms folded, and had cataloged 4 structural flaws in the squad's rear coverage pattern with more precision than Sale's own analysis. She told Wren. Wren listened. Wren incorporated 2 of the 4 observations into the next drill run, without ceremony, without attribution. Avon, who had been testing to see whether attention was real or performative, noticed. On day 11, Avon ran without folding her arms. The coherence rating at end of day 11 was 62%. Sale called a halt at 2,000 and stood the squad down. She did not tell them the number. She went back to her office and looked at it for a long time. 62, 8 points from the threshold, 2 days out. She had seen squads with twice the formation history fail from 62. The trial was a live simulation. Positions shifted. Commands came fast. Pressure engineered to find the weakest joint. 62 in static drills could land anywhere from 40 to 75 on the day. She wrote in her personal log, Coherence 62, Formation Joint Holding, Human Cadet is the joint. She had not seen this particular configuration before. A team assembled to fail, held by a cadet who was doing nothing that exceeded the instrument's rated range. Just attention. Just the consistent, unstoppable practice of noticing what the person next to her needed and providing it without making a monument of the providing. She wrote theory partially confirmed, still could fail on live pressure, recommending we proceed to trial. Then she sat for another few minutes and wrote one more line, I want to see what happens. The composite formation trial ran for 90 minutes of live simulation, 7 phases, each phase a different formation challenge, each phase's parameters hidden until the phase began. Phase 1 was a standard 6-point spread. They ran it clean. Phase 2 introduced a moving perimeter. The boundary of their zone shifted every 40 seconds, which meant every cadet had to recalculate their node position in real time rather than holding a fixed point. The Velsorn cadets ran 3 cycles before finding their rhythm. In the 4th, Wren, from the forward left node, began making small, visible adjustments a half-second early, not to cover anyone, just to demonstrate in the spatial language of footwork what the timing looked like. The Velsorn cadets watching her from across the formation caught it, adjusted, held. Phase 3 collapsed 2 nodes into one, a sudden loss scenario, simulating mid-assessment casualty removal. 4 cadets to hold a 6-point zone. In practice runs, this was where the squad always fell apart. Too much ground, too few people, and the instinct under pressure was to cluster rather than spread. Under pressure, 3 of them clustered. Wren did not cluster. She moved outward to the position she was not assigned and held it alone until the formation resettled. The proctor running the simulation made a note. Phase 4 was communication blackout. No vocal commands permitted, hand signals only. This was the phase that should have broken them. A squad without verbal coordination, mixed visual ranges, mixed signal vocabularies, under live pressure. Exactly the scenario coherence ratings predicted failure for. They did not fail. They ran phase 4 at 81% coherence. Sale, watching from the observer station, saw the number come up on the monitor and checked it, then checked it again. 81 under blackout. She understood why. Wren had been communicating without words for 2 weeks. The squad had been learning to read the channel she used, because she had been consistent and they had been close to her for 14 days and the information was available for any of them who paid attention. Gore paid attention. The twins paid attention. Eventually, Avon paid attention. The Velsorn cadets had started paying attention on day 12. A squad that could read a wordless channel did not lose its coherence when words were removed. They lost one mode of communication and kept the one that had been running underneath it all along. Phase 5, Phase 6, Phase 7. They did not run them cleanly. Pelren dropped a transition in Phase 6, and the formation lost coverage on the rear right node for 11 seconds, which the simulation marked as a vulnerability. Gore overshot a center cross in Phase 7, and Avon had to compensate hard, visibly straining, arriving at the correct position 2 steps later than the protocol required. They ran it imperfectly. They ran it intact. The final score came up on the observer monitor at the end of Phase 7, 73%. 3 points above threshold. The squad did not cheer. That was the thing Sale noticed first, standing at the observer station with the number on the monitor and the 6 of them below in the assessment chamber, the simulation having gone still. They stood in their final positions, a real formation, a functioning formation, and looked at each other. Gore said something. His Croth vocalizations were below the standard audio pickup range, so Sale did not hear the words. But she saw Wren's face when he said them, and the human cadet's expression did the thing it had been doing for 2 weeks. It registered, acknowledged, and moved on. She did not look triumphant. She did not look relieved. She looked like someone completing a job she had believed was completable. Sale sat at the observer station for a moment after the squad was dismissed to their quarters. The assessment report was open on her terminal. The notation fields were waiting. She filled them all in. Then she went back to the field at the top, the one labeled Squad Prognosis at Assignment, and found her original entry, filed 2 weeks earlier, which read, "This squad cannot pass the trial as assembled. Formation coherence projected at 30-35% at trial date. Recommend reassignment." She did not delete it. She left it there, and she filed the report with both entries visible, and she let the record show exactly what had changed and what had done the changing. In the final remarks field, she wrote, "Squad passed at 73%. Coherence improved 42 points over 14 days through informal positional coordination from the human cadet, Wren. No protocol accounts for this. Recommend the mechanism be studied." She submitted the report. Then she sat alone in the observer station a little while longer, turning the 2 weeks over in her mind, and found that she did not have a word for what she had watched happen. She had a number, 73%. And she had a human cadet who had simply, quietly, stubbornly believed the squad could pass the thing it had no business passing, and had worked from that belief without ever once asking the squad to share it. She had only needed them to watch. It turned out that was enough.